Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Kate Llewellyn is a copywriter, content creator, and founder of the content consultancy and Content Club. She says that what she loves most about networking is the fact that you learn so much. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Kate.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
So you're a copywriter and a content creator, but what's your background? Have you always worked in this kind of field, and what was your first job?
So no, not at all. My first real job after university was actually as a publications assistant for my local county council, which was quite a hilarious sort of dog's body job. But it was one of those, it was the classic that I had decided following doing a little bit of work experience at the Oxford University Press when I was doing my master's at Oxford, that publishing was the way that I wanted to go. And as I am sure will be very familiar with a lot of your listeners, I thought, yes, I'll just go and get a job in publishing. And I kept getting the no, sorry, you don't have a lot of experience. So I went and found a job that basically had something to do with publishing in the title, and that was relatively local. And so I had a wonderful, I think it was about a year or so, working at the county council, producing these gorgeous little publications that went out to teachers, so both primary school and secondary school teachers, on, you know, all of the main subjects. And I mean, I laugh now when I look back because we did it all in Word. So we would like create this, no InDesign, no Adobe, nothing, you know, special like that. We would just create these. I'm not even sure they went out as PDFs, to be honest. I think they were still printed as Word documents and then sent out across the county to all these teachers with this advice about, you know, subject specific things they could do and activities, etc. So that was quite an insight into a type of publishing that I certainly hadn't known about before, but also that actually the world of publishing and content creation is so broad, you know, it was so much broader than just books. So I did my time there, and then I was very, very fortunate to land a wonderful job as an assistant editor at the international publisher Macmillan. So I worked for the Palgrave section, which was higher education and academic textbooks and monographs. And so I worked in the undergraduate textbook section, which was an absolute dream come true type job. So I was working under a commissioning editor and then eventually as a commissioning editor, which basically means that you kind of project manage the books through. So you have a list. So I worked specifically with nursing and social work and social care, those kind of courses. And I would either look for a gap in the market, a gap in our list, or I would be presented with a proposal, mostly from undergraduate lecturers who would come along and say, oh, do you know what, this book would be perfect for my course. Can I write it? And I obviously, most of the time, welcome them with open arms. And basically, yes, we would take it from proposal all the way through to publication. And it would be my role to, you know, get it from A to B. Yeah.
Did you learn a lot about that field while you were doing that job?
I really did. And it was really interesting because when I got the job, that was my first concern. You know, I was thinking, I'm not a nurse. I'm not. And actually a colleague at the time said to me, it's not about us being the expert in that field. It's about us being the experts in publishing. And it was a really good way, actually, you know, I think sort of a business lesson in life that actually it's okay to be not the expert in everything, you know, being the expert in your thing. And then obviously for me, it was the lecturers themselves, and we would use sort of professional reviewers to read the text, you know, and it was up to them to then bring their expertise and say yes in terms of, you know, accuracy and sort of expanse, you know, of what it would cover, whether that was right or not, and would suit courses across all different universities, for example. And it was up to me to make sure that, you know, it was more about make sure that it read really clearly, that it would fit, you know, even the number of words would sort of be appropriate for the size, the style, all of those things of the book. And I think the added layer of why I really loved it was obviously these books were written for undergraduates. Now, most of them wouldn't have a lot of knowledge about nursing, social
Yeah.
work, social care, whatever they were
Yeah.
studying. So actually, it put me in a really lovely position to go, look, to be honest, I'm struggling to follow this bit.
Yeah.
Probably so will they. And making sure that those books were really accessible, which was obviously very important.
Yeah. So what was it that you really loved about publishing it? What attracted you to it in the first place?
I think just a classic love of books, love of reading, and I think above all, actually, a love of learning. I sort of did toy with the idea: do I stay and do my PhD? Do I carry on in kind of, a university lifestyle, a university career of some kind? And it was kind of an extension of that because I was still working with lecturers, I was still visiting universities, and it was that kind of spread of knowledge, which again, underpins what I still do to this day.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to work for yourself, and why?
So sadly, it wasn't my own decision, although on reflection, I think it was one of the best opportunities that came my way. So basically, at the time, I was working at Palgrave. It was based in Basingstoke, so in Hampshire, and they made the announcement that they were going to close the Basingstoke offices and bring Macmillan Moore together up in King's Cross in London. And I sat there and I thought, I don't know that commuting is for me, if I'm honest. At the time I lived, 15 minutes down the road. There was barely any traffic. The most I might get caught behind a tractor on my way to work. And I just thought, I'm not sure if it's for me. And then life has a lovely way of confirming when things are right or wrong, because I actually fell pregnant quite soon afterwards. And I always remember thinking, no, the thought of having a young baby, maybe at nursery or not feeling very well, and me being on the other side of London just wasn't for me. And also, my husband had a good job, etc. So there was we had a really lovely talk one day about whether taking the redundancy or moving was the right thing for you. And this person talked about basically how many anchors do you have where you live right now? And I just was like, I've got a lot. I've got a really good friendship group, relatively near to family. As I say, my other half had a wonderful job. It was like, moving physically closer to my workplace, was not going to be the right decision for me. And then the way that these lovely sort of corporate moves work, it actually took another 2, I think it was almost actually 3 years before the move actually happened. So it was lovely. I actually worked quite a lot. I went off, had my first baby, came back and did part-time and kind of nurtured the end of the Basingstoke office and made sure that the kind of transition was relatively clear for those that were moving with the company and also for those that had left. And very luckily, I then had my second child. So I thought, what? This is perfect. I'm going to take the redundancy and I'm going to work, or be a stay-at-home mum to start with, and then do a little bit of freelancing on the side. Because one of the lovely things about publishing is that it is quite a interconnected industry, and a lot of people move between the main publishing houses. So I thought, and with my connections at Oxford University Press as well as Palgrave, I thought I'd pick up a little bit of freelance work just to keep me going. And then when the kids were just that little bit older, able to go to play schools, nurseries and on to primary school, I'd go back to a proper job, as I like to call it. However, again, life has a funny way of leading you down a path, and very, very relevant for your podcast, Liz. I ended up going down to a very small networking event. It was just in my local village, so it was nothing big. I think it might have even been the first ever meeting. It wasn't a long-standing thing at all. And I went down because it was for local business owners. And I thought, well, I'm not really a business owner. I'm just doing a bit of freelance work here and there, but I'll just go down and, find out sort of what it's all about. I guess I work for myself now, does that count, kind of thing. And when I got down there were sort of beauticians and small business, small shop owners, and things like that. And the conversation kept going on about, there's this thing called Facebook that we're like, oh, we're meant to have a page, we're meant to post on it, we're meant to do this, we're meant to do that. And then someone else will come and say, oh yeah, have you got a website yet? I think you're meant to have a website, aren't you? Can you imagine writing this whole website? And then even things like, it was a beautician specifically said, I really feel like I need to do some kind of like flyer or leaflet, but just the thought of it, And I sat there and I thought, I can do that. Well, that appeals. As I say, my background wasn't necessarily in copywriting, but a lot to do with content and the written word. And I thought, actually, yeah. And these, as I say, were local people, literally from my village. So that is how it all started. I literally said, yeah, okay, I could do that. I was very lucky. When I was at Oxford doing my master's, it was literally when Facebook was launched. I don't know if you remember, but Facebook was kind of rolled out through the university, sort of across America, and then they came over to the UK.
Yes, yeah.
So I'd used like Facebook right from its sort of conception. Back in the days where you literally connected with friends and just put photos up. But it felt very familiar. So yes, this sort of little extension into putting out posts about a business and what they offered just felt really natural. So yeah, those sort of funny coincidences that set me up to basically support social media, do a bit of website writing, a lot of blog writing back in those days. And after a couple of years of sort of doing that unofficially, let's say, I then launched, the content consultancy.
Yeah, so tell me about your business now. Who do you help and what do you do for them?
Yeah, sure. So basically, fast forward, and I've ended up with two sides to my business. So I very much nurtured that beginning of just taking on small business clients and helping them with their marketing. And as I say, could involve everything from social media, emails, websites, etc. And then as I started to carry on going through, I actually realised how much I really enjoy that longer form content writing. So, and again, going back to that academic study of things like SEO and understanding how that all works. So I actually specialised my content writing side of things into just doing websites, primarily working with a fellow like website designer or developer as their copywriter, or also working for some bigger corporates doing their blogs who had like a really strong SEO strategy. So working with sort of fewer clients but on bigger projects. And then after COVID, I realised that a lot of my past clients who I'd worked with, some who, bless them, had lost, all income overnight, were still doing their social media particularly or sending out an email, but they weren't able to either get the support they need or afford the support they need or to outsource at that time. And so with the boom of things like Zoom and video calls and online courses, I set up a second side to my business, which is an online membership called the Content Club. And the idea of this is that we bring together small business owners all together who are mostly doing their content and their marketing themselves, or they do perhaps have a VA or something like that, but they just want someone to support them with the planning side of it, with the coming up with the ideas, with the space to reflect on whether their marketing is working hard for them. And so that is what the Content Club does. It offers an opportunity for small business owners to come together on a monthly basis. Primarily, we have 2 content clinics a month, and we get together, we check in on our plans, we ask any big questions, we face any barriers that are stopping us on the, as I like to call it, the content treadmill that we are all on. And then in addition, we have quarterly planning sessions. So we sit down for a 2-hour co-working, and I guide everyone through planning out their content for the next 3 months. With that, it's just proved so powerful that if people have got like a calendar, if they've got a plan to follow, all of a sudden, again, that content treadmill doesn't feel quite so difficult.
Yeah. And so who are the kinds of businesses that come to your content club? Are they any sort of particular sector? Have you got all sorts of people?
So I've actually got all sorts of people, although they are mostly, as I say, small business owners, micro business owners. I've got a couple of people that do work on behalf of a bigger company as well. That kind of sole marketing assistant that is handling it all, so I can be there to support them as well. And then in terms of kind of sectors, it is very, very broad, but there's kind of this underpinning value that they all just want to help others. And I hope that makes sense. There's kind of, yes, I suppose you you could put an umbrella over a lot of them are kind of the health and well-being, coaching, nutrition, that kind of thing, some HR as well. But it's that sort of that want to help others and to spread their knowledge and their services in order to do that.
Yeah. So tell me about a typical meeting then. What happens when everybody turns up? I'm assuming it's online, is it?
Yes, so all of the meetings are online, and we actually stick to a pretty consistent agenda for the content clinics, because I think with anything like that, you kind of want to feel comfortable and to know what's going to happen. You don't want to suddenly be put on the spot. So it's very much a drop-in. So if people feel like they can only make 10 minutes, they can come and go. But the session itself is 60 minutes. And we basically follow a standard format of, first of all, I double check if anybody has got any urgent questions in the room, because that's the main reason for it being there. It is, I have been locked out of my Instagram account. I've fumbled on a Instagram reel, and the caption now reads something rude, or sorry, not the caption. What's the word?
The subtitles.
Subtitles, thank you. Yes. Or whatever. So any urgent things like that, we cover. Then we do take 5 to 10 minutes to physically get out our plans or get them up on screen if we're doing it digitally, and make sure that we are on course for that month or what's coming up, and making sure that we know what we're posting. And again, we often have lots of conversations about, I want to talk about this, but I'm not sure how. And it's wonderful how everyone else in the room starts piling in and going, I'd love to know about this, or I'd love to know about that. And just such a great reminder that we just forget how much we know and how much experts we are in our fields, and feel like we've got nothing to say. And yet you get a group of people and they soon, have loads of questions and ideas. And then each month we have a dedicated topic, because I think one of the things about content and marketing more broadly is everybody feels like, they should be doing everything all of the time. And so we use a monthly topic to try and break it down. So, we'll have a dedicated 2 months of the year to our website, so that we can go in, we can make sure it's up to date, we can do little SEO tweaks, etc., and then kind of put it to one side and say, I did that, and don't worry, 4 months time I'm going to come back and do it again. We have a dedicated month all about cornerstone content, so things like blogs and podcasts and videos, and whether we want to be doing more of that, etc. So the second half of the meeting is dedicated to chatting about that, and I'll have some questions and some ideas that we can go around and just make sure that we've done our little bit of tweaking, as I like to call it, to those specific marketing activities as well.
Yeah. And I imagine it's also quite a good place for networking too, is it?
Absolutely. It's always one of those, I think it's really funny when you offer a service as a small business, that you in your mind kind of have a vision of not just what it's going to be, because obviously you're the one who's going to deliver it, but like the power of it, what the value is, the benefit. And I was so wrong with the Content Club. So I thought, when I set it up, as I mentioned, about like video calls and online courses, and everyone would want to learn how to create a reel, learn how to write a blog, those kinds of things. And what I realised is that actually many small business owners are absolutely incredible, and they have so much to share and so much knowledge, and they are brilliant, but what they lack is the confidence to share that knowledge. And so often, they knew how to create the post. It was the confidence or the reassurance behind that to actually do it. And that is exactly as you said, the clinics have become a form of networking and community and confidence boosting. And that's what it's all about. And I've actually referred to the Content Club and the clinic specifically as a online networking event, where the topic of conversation is sort of, I suppose, limited to, is that the right term? But limited to marketing and content. But as you can imagine, I always get people to share their details and make sure that everybody knows who everyone else is in the room. And there have been some really lovely collaborations, because, as I said, you start talking about your business and what you offer, and people may have not seen that because you've not been shouting about it. And it's another great place for them, to then connect and to work together.
Yeah. So outside of your Content Club, do you network for your business in other places too?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So I'm a member of a couple of groups, as well as I love to go and visit groups too. I network both in person and online. I love networking. I think it's such a wonderful way. And actually, I always talk to people when they join the Content Club about their marketing activities and actually clients more broadly as well. And whilst I'm a content writer at heart, I always say to people, there is still so much power from a marketing perspective in face to face, in speaking to fellow human beings about your business. And so many that people that I work with are like, oh, I feel under so much pressure to do social media and put out X number of posts a week or what have you. And then I speak to them and I say, well, okay, but let's look at, your past few sales, your past few months. Where's your business come from? And so often it's networking, referrals, having that discovery call where they, that virtual coffee. And it's that. And actually, it's a really good reminder that so often our kind of written content, our visual content is a backup. It's about brand awareness. It's about, building the know, like and trust, but the actual sales conversion so often when you're actually, so often happen when you're talking to people.
Yeah. So what would you say you've got from networking? Why would you recommend people to do it? I mean, obviously it sparked the whole idea for your business in the first place. But what else has come out of it for you?
So fun enough, I think I would say that it sparked both the idea for the original business and the idea for the Content Club, because so often when you turn up and you say that you do marketing, people's shoulders slump. And it's not about you, but it's about their own, feelings. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm meant to do more. You're going to tell me off. You're, that kind of thing. And so actually I was with the Ribbons Network at the time. And I actually stood up and I was doing a presentation. I was the sort of guest speaker that month, and I actually literally said, look, I've got this idea for a membership where I get you all together and you can all complain about Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever of choice at the same time, and then I can also give you ideas all at the same time. How does that stand? How does that sound? And genuinely, it was a networking event that people gave me feedback. They asked sort of about how often, the price, that all of this stuff. So it was that was a wonderful opportunity. And still now, every time I go to a networking event, you learn. I guess it's my learning thing, isn't it? But you learn so much. I hear about businesses and sectors and things I've never heard of before. I learn about new ways of doing things, even things like online courses or what have you. There's so many different ways that they can be done. I love checking out other businesses' websites. So, again, you connect with someone new, you go and check out their website, and it's just a wonderful space to learn, because I think even though you may not have something particularly in common with that business, what underpins what we do, marketing, making sales, building customer relations, whatever it might, so much we still have in common.
Yeah. So one final question then, Kate. If people want to find out more about you or the Content Club, what is the best place for them to find you?
So I am particularly active on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is just literally at Kate Llewellyn. So do find me there. And then I also have a website, thecontentconsultancy.com, and you'll find out all about the Content Club itself and the related workshops and stuff that I run, as well as my content writing services.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest. And I've learned a lot from talking to you.
Amazing. No, thank you so much. And we're always learning, always learning.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.